Welcome to Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. How do I prepare financially to buy my first home? What are the hidden costs of buying a home? Welcome to episode 10 of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, and today I'll be sharing part 2 of my home buying journey. This is the part you've probably all been waiting for, the financial strategy. So get ready to learn how we structured our purchase and at what points in the process we had to pay for certain things. If you're preparing to buy a home soon, then this one is for you. Let's get into it. So before we do get into today's episode, I'm inviting you to my new boot camp called the Financial Glow Up, 5 days to spend smarter and grow wealth faster. You'll learn your spender style and easy ways to incorporate new money habits, as well as money management moves to build wealth. Head to the link in the show notes to join us. We start Monday. So if you're listening to this in real time, then definitely make sure you join that so you can get access to the first call on Monday. And then even if you listen to this a little bit later, if you are able to join us at any point next week, you can do so. Okay, so let's get into the numbers, or as I like to say, the money, honey, okay, about the home purchase. And this, okay, please understand that I'm the financial coach that loves numbers. I'm a math girly. Okay. It is what it is. And so I'm very excited to talk about numbers and structure and things like that with you. Now, so let's just do it. Okay, so the first thing that I want to kind of hit on is preparing to purchase. So I talked about this a little bit in the part 1 portion of the home buying journey. And when it comes to preparing to purchase, we do want to have an idea of how much home we would like to afford or spend on. And so there are different mortgage calculators that are on these internets that I hope that you utilize, especially as you start to see what that monthly payment could look like, depending on how much the home is, how much money you're putting down, and then also potentially what your interest rate could be. Now, when you are doing these things ahead of time, it's helpful because then when we start to think about the question of how much money should I save for the down payment or how much should I have available for that, starting to utilize a mortgage calculator will help you to have that number in mind, because depending on what the cost of the home is that you're looking at, you'll be able to see, okay, if I put down $50,000, what's that going to look like? If I put down $100,000, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's something that you want to start to utilize if you haven't already. The next thing I want to say is that once we knew we wanted to purchase a home relatively soon, we started saving in a high yield savings account. So this is beneficial for multiple reasons, but my favorite is the interest. So the amount of money that you can, make in terms of interest off of the money that you are putting into the savings account is different than your traditional savings account, which will, if we really break it down, I think it gets you like 0.01001, things like that, right? Percent in interest off of the money that you put into your traditional savings account. With your high yield savings account, that goes up to like, depending on when you're listening to this and what the rates are at the time. But right now they are around that between 4 and 5% of interest that you could be making on the money that is sitting in that savings account. And so I recommend that for emergency funds. I recommend that for down payment savings, anything that you're looking to spend money on or save for to spend in the next couple of years. So that is where we put our down payment savings. So that way, as it was sitting there, we were getting a little bit more interest. And then the other thing that you want to really keep in mind when it comes to your purchase is your credit score. Your credit score matters. Okay. And this can, I won't say like make or break things for you, because there's so many programs now where you can get assistance in terms of down payment and things like that. However, when it comes to like your monthly payment for your monthly mortgage payment, okay, like the interest rate that you are being given for your mortgage, that is where your credit score is really going to matter. So, and it helps with the pre-approval too. You have a little bit more leeway in terms of, the amount that they pre-approve you for the home, with a great credit score. This is where I would say you want to get definitely like in the 700s is a beautiful place to be, just period. If you are not able to get into the 700s for whatever reason, don't let that stop you. However, you want to try to get as close to like 680 and above as possible. So that is the goal when it comes to the credit score. Now, I'll tell you for our journey, right, when we were working with our lender, in the first conversation that we had, I believe I talked about that, where we had qualified, or we would have to qualify for a jumbo loan, right? So in that conversation, after we had decided like, okay, we're going to press the brakes for now and come back to this a little bit later in a few months, see if things have changed, right? So at the end of that conversation, when we were talking about our credit, something that our lender said that I think is helpful is that even if you pay down, like if you are carrying a credit card balance and you're still going to purchase a home, again, I'm not here to judge you, okay? Like I'm a big believer in like, don't let debt control your life and control all of your financial decisions. Okay. Like we face it, we handle it, but we don't let it stop us from living. And so, one of the things that he had said was that you want to get your utilization down to 50%, or like pay off it, like at least get it down to 50% of the limit of all of the cards. That's going to help to boost the amount, like not boost the amount, but like that will help you to have a lower interest rate. That's where I was going. Okay. So that'll help you to have that lower interest rate if you can get your utilization down to that spot. Of course, lower or no credit card debt or anything like that is the best, right? You want to like 30% or lower is a great place to be. Maybe I need to do a credit episode. If that's something that y'all want, please, send me a DM, something, let me know, and we can set that up. But ideally, you want to get that down to 50%. So just for a quick example, let's say that you have $10,000 in credit card debt. We want to make sure that that is at 5,000 or lower. That's going to make that's not what I meant to say. I meant that your limit, say your limit is $10,000. You want to make sure that your balance, the amount that you have on the card, is lower than $5,000. That's what he was saying in that example. So that way you can get a better interest rate. So the more that you pay that down, the more that's going to help you when it comes to your interest rate. So you want to get your credit score in a good place. Now, in terms of how we paid for it, I'm going to cover the overview and then I'm going to get into the specifics. So we paid for it with a combination of our savings, a gift from family, a state-sponsored grant, and a 401k withdrawal. And so, or a 401k loan. Okay, so let's go through piece by piece on those things. So, savings. As I mentioned in the first episode, we saved for about 2 years in terms of our down payment savings into that high yield savings account I mentioned at the very beginning. Okay, so we got to I feel like we got to a pretty good amount there in the down payment savings. Now, we also received a gift from family. Now, I realize that this is a privilege, okay? Not everyone can access this. And I also want to say that even if you are not able to have, a gift from family in terms of helping you to handle the down payment, it does not mean that purchasing a home is not possible for you either. Okay. I have clients who have done it with a gift from family. I have clients who, saved very intentionally for a few years and were able to make it happen. I have those who, took every tax refund they received and just put that into, their down payment savings for, a few years. So there's different ways that you can do it. And one of the ways that we did it, right? I'm going to get to that in a second, is something that can be useful to you if you don't have as much of the liquid cash available to you right now. Okay. So, yes. So we got the gift from family, and then we ended up, I feel like it was either while we were in escrow or right before escrow. There was a state sponsored grant that we qualified for that helped with the down payment. So it took away, I want to say at least it was a few thousand, from the down payment that we were able to utilize in other spaces. And so that we, you had to fill out the application, and then that one had a course that we, had to go through, in terms of there were different homeowner tips in there. It went through the home buying process, which was ironic because at that time we were basically going through that, but it's helpful. So we had to go through that in order to be approved for that grant. And then with these different grants, there are special requirements or eligibility. And there's also a good amount of that, to be honest. Okay. So you can work with your lender to find what you qualify for. But this is one of those areas where I also recommend doing some research. There can be some grants that are in your city that are city specific. There could be some grants that are in your county. There can be some grants that are in your state, your region. There are also, of course, some that are more on the, the federal side, if we're in the US, right? So there are different opportunities, and they all have different requirements, different eligibility, things like that. Okay. And so do your research in these areas. This can help to take a lot of that pressure off on the down payment itself. And the companies, government entities that offer these grants know that. They know, okay? They know that right now in this day and age, coming up with hundreds of thousands at a time may not be feasible for all people. And so they have these grant programs to help to support that. And so that's something that you want to look into and research, especially as you were starting to put together your financials around this purchase. And so then the next thing I want to talk about is the 401k withdrawal / loan. Now, this is one of those things where it's one of the few reasons you can withdraw from your 401k. Now, we did it in terms of the loan structure. So it was basically like a 401k loan. So that means that we are essentially paying ourselves back, of course, with each paycheck. And, but we were able to use that, I want to say maybe 30 to 50% of our down payment was through this 401k loan. And so, that is what we're able to utilize for that and wire over and everything. But yeah, the payments in terms of paying that back, of course, you can do that on your own. And then you can also have, well, they're also going to take out like a little portion of each paycheck that's associated with that 401k to pay back that over time. Now, the one thing, this is a great way to I'm going to say two things about the 401k. Okay. So this is one, a great way if you are like, it's going to take me forever to save the amount that I would need, especially if you're like me and you're in Los Angeles. It's a high cost of living area. If you're looking at it that way and it's like, oh, it's going to take forever. This is a good option. And it's, you're essentially saving, of course, for retirement. But this, it's money that you are putting away. And so when we take money out of there, it's really about what am I doing to build or to have an asset, right, at the same time. And so we don't want to just take money out of the 401k for frivolous things, ideally. You want to take it out if you are to build wealth. Okay, so to have to purchase an asset that is going to make you money, ideally. Okay, so with that, it's a great option in terms of getting your feet wet into real estate. And the other thing that you need to understand about using the 401k loan is that if you leave the job that is associated with that, or if you get fired, whatever it is, right? If you leave that job, many times the amount that is outstanding is going to be due immediately back to that 401k. Now, this is where I tell you and I empower you to look into your 401k's policies, okay? And look into that through your company's sponsored program. A lot of them are similar, but there are some differences, okay? So you want to look into that, of course, and research that. But often that is the case where it's going to be like the lump sum is due when you leave that job. So that's a good thing to keep in mind in terms of like, you don't want to over leverage, right? And then you also want to keep that in mind for longevity of staying at that spot. Okay. So things to keep in mind. However, we are grateful that we went that route, and it allowed us to have liquid cash for other things like moving expenses, for furnishing, especially since we knew we wanted to get the rental going, to have the money available to do that part. Okay. So something to keep in mind. And then the other thing, we went into this process thinking that we would go for the FHA loan, or first time home buyer loan is how it's also referenced, but we thought we were going to go that route. But we ended up qualifying for conventional funding. So, with the conventional financing, you don't have to pay the, like that mortgage insurance, with your mortgage payment every month. And so, yeah, of course, we're going to choose that. And so we still went with the conventional financing. Okay, so like now let's get into like when we paid for what. So to open escrow, we sent in about 19% of our down payment. And that was to open it. So that's where you want to, you're going to work with your lender, you're going to work with your realtor, but have that in mind that you will need to put in some sort of like earnest money deposit. And so with that, it was 19% of our down payment. We had that available in the bank. That was pretty easy to wire over. We focused on using the 401k portion for closing itself. So not for the, for that initial opening of escrow, but for when we close escrow. So then, after that, you have to start paying for inspections, like the appraisals, specialists, all of that stuff during escrow. And so, for example, and you pay for that as they come out to do the services. So, our inspector's fee, for example, was like $400. So that's something that you want to budget for. You want to have that in mind. I feel like this is also the time, and your lender's going to tell you this as well. Don't be one of those people that decides to like make big purchases or transfers or whatever during escrow. Like that is your time to lie low, okay? That's when you just hang out, you go about your business, you mind your business, and you don't make any super big like purchases. Like wait to do those things after you close. Okay? Like let's do that. The other thing that who was it? I think it was either a lender or a realtor. But I guess a lot of people will like set up to like move in on the day that they close escrow, and that can be tricky. To each their own, do you boo. However, I'm gonna say that like even for us, our day shifted. So we thought it was gonna be one day and it was a couple days later. And so you don't want to get caught in a situation where the moving truck is there, but you can't move in, you know? So I would say like wait to schedule those things for after you actually close and you have the keys. So yeah, just a note. Okay, so things that you may not think about is that utilities have to be in your name and the homeowner insurance secured before you close escrow, and there could be fees attached for that. So as you start the internet and the electricity and gas and all those things, there could be deposits and stuff that you have to make. And then just keep in mind too that, you know, as you are going from one place to another, you might be having to deal with, say you're going from a rental situation like we were, you still have to pay your rent, right? For that month. And then, you have your electricity and like other utilities and things that you're paying for that place. And then you have to get it started for the next place. So just some things to think about in terms of additional costs and fees. And then, lastly, the remainder of our down payment was paid at the close of escrow. So that's when we were wiring over that part from the 401k that we use. And we got that started once we had an idea of like the exact day we were going to close. We had moved past like the inspection and some of the more serious things. That's when we started that process of getting that, withdrawing that money and getting it moving. So they'll usually give you that information. Our lender as well gave us the predicted costs and things like that before we closed. So we had an idea of how much it was going to be. And of course, it was going to finalize. And it was a little bit different, right? The amounts were slightly different when we finalized, but they gave us that summary, and that's very helpful for knowing how much to send and where you're going to have to send it. And then, and then just in general, when you're wiring money, there's nominal fees for that if you're not experienced with wiring. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing I'm going to say is that have money available for after the purchase. All right. Like there's moving costs, there's furnishing the home. If you're, buying new furniture or, you're moving into a larger space maybe. And so there's other things you may want to buy. Now I'll say with that in terms of furnishing, like allow it to be a process of like settling and nesting even where you take your time. Okay. You don't have to have everything purchased instantly. We are, like 6-7 months into this thing and we're still buying things, still finding things that we want to, use to decorate or to make a space better. Or like now we've been here for a few months. It's like, oh, I could really use, an extra cabinet or something. So those are things to keep in mind. Like, don't feel like you have to do that immediately. And then any small repairs that may pop up too. So this one is fun. Okay. This story. So we move in, right? We get the washer and dryer, and then it's time to just hook them up. That's what you think. You think the people are just gonna come to hook it up, and then we find out that our washer box, like the pipe in there, like it was corroded. And so as they're about to hook it up, the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. You need to fix this or figure this out first." And then he just leaves. And I was like, excuse me. So that happened. And so then we proceeded to have like 3 or 4 different plumbers show up to give us quotes to fix that issue. Our homeowner's insurance, or no, the home warranty does not cover that. And so then that meant that we had to come out of pocket, of course, for getting that fixed. So we finally got that fixed, and that was like an unexpected $500 cost. And that's not even including like having to get the inconvenience of having to do our laundry other places, or having to, like pay for the laundry service that we weren't expecting to pay for because, we had the washer and dryer and thought that they were just going to be, working. So that's something that you want to be prepared for as well. There could be certain costs that come up, that you might not have planned for. And that's just like home ownership, period. I felt like that really did feel like an initiation. Truthfully, I was like, oh, great. Rite of passage to home ownership. Random thing breaking. Random thing needing to be fixed. But it's something that you just want to plan for as you are a homeowner and as you are navigating, being new to that space. Just have that extra money available and keep that savings stacked so that way you can handle those things as they come up. And so with that is the financial strategy that we used to purchase the home. And our action step for this week, there's a few things going on, right? So let's focus on the financial preparation part here. Your credit score and down payment will likely take the longest time in terms of preparation. And so if you haven't looked at your credit score recently, let's look at that, see where you can make some adjustments to improve and raise your score. If you haven't already started saving for that down payment, let's go ahead and get started with that and find a high yield savings account to save that in if you haven't already done so. One of my favorites is Ally. No, they're not sponsoring this episode or giving me money, but if they want to, hey. But no, for real, like I've had an account with them for like 9 years. Wild. Anyways, so I've had an account with them for 9 years. I really like them. That's a company that you could open your high yield savings account with. And then you can also start playing around with those mortgage calculators like I talked about at the beginning to see how much you may be paying per month for that. And so the next couple episodes, we have attachment styles and money coming up, and how to break free from the feast or famine money cycle. Those are a couple episodes that are on their way. I'm excited for those. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we start the Financial Glow Up Bootcamp on Monday. That is 5 days to spend smarter and grow wealth faster. And remember, you're going to learn your spender style, fun and easy ways to incorporate new money habits, and some money management moves to build wealth, to also become a homeowner. If that's something that you are financially preparing for, we will talk about that and how to build those habits as well in that space. I'm very excited. I'm gonna talk about one of the games that that my clients and I set up to really kind of gamify the whole eating out situation, and how often you do that, how to do it in a way that makes it fun but does not break your bank at the same time. So those are a few of the things we're going to be talking about at the boot camp. I would love to have you there. And so with that, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all of your love and feedback. This is the 10th episode. This is so exciting. I've been loving this journey so far and loving this ability to connect with you. It's wonderful. So thank you for everything, y'all. And I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.